Following the success of the first in what would become known as the Three Flavors Cornetto trilogy, writing partners Simon Pegg and Edgar Wright turned their attention to a different genre. After 18 months of writing and with a budget twice the size of their first collaboration, they reunited with actor Nick Frost and producer Naira Park to create their love letter to buddy cop movies and action cinema. But the finished film is more than that. This is the many genres of Hot Fuzz. During research, Wright and Pegg discovered that most police officers commented on the lack of paperwork shown in police movies.
Well, I won't argue that it was a no-holds-barred, adrenaline-fueled thrill ride, but there's no way you could perpetrate that amount of carnage and mayhem and not incur a considerable amount of paperwork.
So, to play on this underrepresented element, Wright not only includes scenes of Nicholas doing paperwork, but gives them the same reverence as the gunfights and the car chases. To get this double exposure, flashy, grainy quality, Wright shot with a 16mm hand-crank camera to emulate Tony Scott's work in Domino and Man on Fire. Nick Frost, Danny Butterman, is a huge fan of buddy cop movies and idolises Nicholas for his knowledge and experience. He's used as a writer's surrogate and allows them to establish the common traits of action. These aren't just references though, and have influence over the plot and the characters' decisions. Nicholas leaves Sanford defeated, but turns back after seeing a rack of Danny's favourite action films in a service station. This inspires him to become a one-man army like the gunslinging heroes from those movies, and that Danny already thinks he is. Pegg's voice is redubbed in post to have a deeper, gruffer quality.
Morning.
Which signals to the audience that the rest of the film will take place in a heightened reality. And Wright gets to do a real gearing up montage like the ones from Commando or Evil Dead 2. Except it's turned up to 11, with Nicholas collecting every weapon from the Chekhov's arsenal that was discovered on Webley's farm. Honestly, I haven't seen a gearing up montage as satisfying as this one, with its crash zooms and over-the-top sound design. The action has been built up throughout the story. As Nicholas Angel, the stoic, badass cop, is placed in a rural village, having to deal with minor disputes like underage drinking and shoplifting. Until the explosive finale, which is essentially just wish fulfillment for Danny, as he gets to live out everything he's ever wanted.
Gunfights, car chases, proper action and shit.
The variety on display is staggering. Shootouts, sword fights, standoffs, punch-ups, car chases, and even explosions. It's the ultimate payoff, giving the audience everything they could want after an hour and a half of referencing and commenting on the tropes of action cinema. But they still include the squad doing the considerable amount of paperwork that is incurred with this amount of carnage and mayhem. And everyone is arrested as no one is killed in the shootout, which is what police are supposed to do. Except Tom Weaver, I don't think he survived the explosion.
Oh, God, no.
You don't need me to tell you how funny this movie is. But I will. If you grew up in the UK, you're used to seeing this film shown on ITV2 almost every other day. Pegg and Wright's script is packed with jokes, sight gags and references, which when added with the direction and actors' performances, are all used to deliver the jokes so thick and fast that Hot Fuzz is perfect for endless rewatches. Every Frame a Painting has an excellent video on Edgar Wright's visual comedy that I highly recommend you check out if you haven't already. They list some of Wright's techniques that I won't repeat, but here are some more that I admire. The expectation and subversion. Background jokes, repetition,
Morning, Sergeant. Morning, Sergeant.
Morning, Sergeant. Morning, Sergeant.
Morning, Sergeant.
a well-placed cameo, or even a hidden cameo, memorable line delivery,
A great big bushy beard.
using sound effects to highlight facial expressions or significant moments, blink and you'll miss it jokes, like the swear box having the most offensive word not censored, a well-placed swear,
Oh, fuck off, grasshopper.
a well-placed censor.
As far as I'm concerned, Cousin Sissy can go and fuck.
Would you just excuse me?
But the comedy is also used in service of the mystery. Until the finale, the majority of the film functions as a murder mystery, with Nicholas and Danny investigating the tragic accidents that keep befalling this perfect village. Like any good whodunit, there's a vast cast of iconic British character actors as the suspects and victims, including Shaun alums Bill Nighy, Martin Freeman and Rafe Spall, along with David Bradley, Billy Whitelaw, Jim Broadbent, Olivia Colman, Paddy Considine, Ron Cook, Anne Reid, Rory McCann, and loads more. Nicholas's first theory is a conspiracy of a new bypass that would lead to a rival supermarket that would take away customers from Timothy Dalton's Simon Skinner, leading him to murder those who knew about the bypass. The explanation works as he's been set up as the perfect villain. He makes ominous threats in front of Nicholas, turns up at crime scenes listening to ironic music, and has a moustache, the most evil of all facial hair. An important part of Hot Fuzz is the misdirect. The Skinner theory is airtight and perfectly plausible. We know Skinner's a good runner, so he'd be able to escape when chased. The church roof is established as needing repairs, so it would break apart easily. And the vehicle removers also work on the meat counter, so could help Skinner stage the car crash. However, this theory is scuppered by the surveillance footage, that shows he was in the shop during Leslie's murder. But, in a callback to an earlier joke, he has a eureka moment, realising that the Neighbourhood Watch Alliance led by Frank have been killing anyone who would damage their chances at the Village of the Year competition. The true reveal, while ridiculous, is so satisfying because the clues are signposted throughout the movie and become obvious on a second watch. In the first scene after the prologue, the motive and twist is hidden in the dialogue.
A lovely little place that I think has won Village of the Year, I don't know how many times.
With respect, sir, you can't just make people disappear.
Yes, I can. I'm the Chief Inspector.
And the real reasons for the killings are stated throughout. But like Angel, the audience assumes they're just funny character traits. Martin Blower's awful acting and Eve Draper's annoying laugh, George Merchant's ugly house, Tim Messenger's bad spelling, and Leslie Teller's disloyalty are all well established. And of course, the phrase greater good is always said twice, which reinforces it to the audience.
It's all for the greater good.
The greater good.
The greater good.
The greater good, precisely.
How can this be for the greater good? Shut it!
The comedy makes the lines memorable, so when they're reincorporated, we know what's going on. And I like that Nicholas's detective work isn't undermined, because he is right. Skinner isn't just a red herring, he is one of the killers. He's the final boss Nicholas must defeat in a kaiju-like battle destroying the model village of Sanford. Nicholas just overestimated the motives and underestimated the killers. I think Hot Fuzz is often forgotten about when great mysteries are mentioned, and I think that's a byproduct of the other subgenres being so strong. It's a gift and a curse. Horror. While fulfilling some foreshadowing, Nicholas falls into the castle's catacombs, where the MWA keep their victims, and seeing the rotting corpses of innocent people Nicholas has turned in is really disturbing. Like, most of these people are just kids. While the reasons for the murders are trivial, like stealing biscuits or being a living statue, the NWA are murderers, and I'm glad the threat is made clear instead of being played for laughs. If Nicholas lets them get away with it, the consequences will be dire. Like in Shaun the Dead, the antagonists are taken very seriously. While Shaun is an excellent comedy, the threat is not undermined. The zombie outbreak is serious, and the deaths are impactful. Save for Shaun, Liz and Diane, there's a comic explaining how she survived, all the main characters die and their losses are felt. Shaun having to kill his mum is tragic, helped by a heartbreaking performance from Simon Pegg. This technique is continued into Hot Fuzz. The unknown hooded killer is genuinely quite unnerving, appearing from the shadows and brutally murdering people. Their victims are decapitated with an axe, have a church spire dropped on their head, and are stabbed through the throat with garden shears. Adam Buxton's death is visually reminiscent of Patrick Troughton's in The Omen. Both characters try to warn the protagonists about the danger they're in, but are killed in the process by part of a church falling on them. Using horror elements makes the threat feel real. It gives the violence consequences, which is kinda lacking in the genre today. And if you want to get even more specific, folk horror. Now, Hot Fuzz doesn't feature any superstition or folklore, which are the foundations of folk horror, but small-town paranoia, the modern versus the old, and secret cults that control communities and kill for the greater good definitely are. Like its name suggests, folk horror works best when dealing with regular folk, ordinary people that have been corrupted by things like grief or power. Structurally, Hot Fuzz takes huge inspiration from the cult classic The Wicker Man. Both films follow a strong-willed police officer who is sent to a small rural town, where outside influence has been cut off and they live by their own laws, following a deranged leader. In each, the police officer uncovers a mystery where one thing appears to be happening, but it's actually something way worse. And Edward Woodward appears in both, as Sergeant Howie in The Wicker Man and Tom Weaver in Hot Fuzz. Both films are part of an unofficial trilogy. Hot Fuzz is the second in the Cornetto trilogy, sometimes referred to as the Blood and Ice Cream trilogy, preceded by Shaun the Dead from 2004 and followed by The World's End in 2013, whereas The Wicker Man is the third in the Unholy Trinity, comprising of Witchfinder General and Blood on Satan's Claw. Romance. There is an innate homoeroticism in action cinema that is woefully underexplored. The genre is built around hypermasculine men expressing their love for each other through physical acts. One of Danny's favourite films, Point Break, is almost explicitly a love story between Keanu Reeves' Johnny Utah and Patrick Swayze's Bodhi. Now, just because they don't kiss doesn't mean they weren't in love, though they should have kissed. The same can be said for Nicholas and Danny. It's fairly well known that in the first draft, Nicholas had a love interest called Victoria, but she was cut from the script in early stages. But a lot of this dialogue was just given to Danny. In a brief scene in the opening, Nicholas tells his ex-girlfriend Janine that he's moving to Sanford, but she's already started seeing someone else. It would seem that this was included to set up Nicholas finding a new girlfriend later on in the film, and while he doesn't find a girlfriend, he does find his perfect partner. Nicholas becomes Danny's begrudging mentor, and while he is at first annoyed at Danny's naivety and obsession with action films, Danny quickly grows on him. In a short span of time, Danny learns a lot from Nicholas.
Well, we can't accept gifts from somebody we've officially rebuked, so...
Yeah, we can't accept gifts from someone we've officially rebuked, so, jog on.
One of the reasons Nicholas and Janine broke up was his dedication to work and constant forgetting of events like funerals, anniversaries, and birthdays. But when Nicholas realises he's been working through Danny's birthday, he immediately goes to get him a peace lily, the plant Nicholas is protective over, and when the ill-fated Leslie Tiller asks him if it's for someone special, he coyly says,
Yes, it is.
Everything he was missing in his relationship with Janine, he has found with Danny, and everything Danny was looking for, he's found with Nicholas. Because of their in-real-life friendship, Simon Pegg and Nick Frost have an undeniable chemistry on screen, and lean into the flirty undertones. The scene in the pub where Danny and Nicholas get to know each other is shot with very intimate close-ups. The background is blurred out, isolating the two, and they're bathed in warm golden lighting. They get drunk and Nicholas walks Danny back to his.
I like this being like the end of the first date. For some reason, this scene always reminded me of like I call it the Bridget Jones scene. I don't know why it's sort of just well, this is me. That's a snog on the first date.
Danny invites Nicholas in and they get even closer on the sofa. It's shot in tighter close-ups than before, as Nicholas is vulnerable for the first time in the movie and opens up to Danny. Danny even looks down at Nicholas's lips before getting up and sharing his favourite films with him, which is a true act of love. Aside from the murders and shootouts, Hot Fuzz is about Nicholas and Danny becoming better people because they met each other.
Now, I love the fact you put your glasses on. Yeah. And you've got kind of like, it's like you've turned into fascist supercop here with your black gloves.
Oh yeah, but that was always our kind of intention, that the resolution wasn't necessarily the kind of ideal one, in that, you know, now the town was being run by an overachieving fascist.